The Bible tells us that when they threw those boys into that fire, when that horn blew, and those boys did not bow down, the guards came and got them, and they took them to throw them in the fire. And they bound their hands, and they threw them in that fire. And the guards that threw them in there, and I can testify to this, it was so hot that it killed the guards that threw them in. It was a deadly fire. By the standards of mankind and physics and all this, those boys should have been dead. But the king looked in that fire and he said, "Hey, do you see what I see? I see 4 people in there. One of them's like the Son of Man." Now we don't know what he saw, but we believe that he saw Jesus, saw God. And he saw those 3 boys, and he said, "Hey, come out of the fire." And the Bible tells us, Daniel documents this for us, they came out of the fire, and it says that the only thing that was burned on them was what? The ropes that had been binding their hands. They weren't burnt. Nothing. They weren't touched by the fire. Hebrews chapter 11 is a chapter that chronicles faith. It tells us that what people did by faith. By faith. What saved those 3 Hebrew boys in that fire? I'll ask anybody here, what saved them in that fire? What? Well, their faith carried them into the fire. But what saved them was the grace of God. That's what saved them. It was God's grace that delivered them from that fire. But it was their faith that put them in that fire. See, grace and faith, we see that played out in the book of Daniel before Jesus ever shows up in our world. Do you see how that works? Their faith and belief in a true God and their obedience to His commands is what put them in that fire. And it was God's grace that delivered them. Now, we live in a world today that says our obedience doesn't matter anymore. That's what the world teaches. The majority of the Christian churches in this world teach that your faith does not matter. All you have to do is accept God's grace. That's not true. It's a lie, and we know who the author of the lie is. God's grace does save us. And let me tell you something else. Here's another aspect of grace. You ever heard this say, we are saved, S-A-V-E-D, by grace? How many of us are English majors here? S-A-V-E-D is what? Is that present, future, or past? Huh? Anybody an English teacher? Saved is past tense. And that's where the churches make their error. They say that you're saved by God, and you can't be lost. I'm going to tell you something. These 3 boys, had they not stood firm by faith and would not waver from their obedience to God, they would probably have been lost. They wouldn't have burned in that fire that day. but they would have been lost. We are saved, S-A-V-E-D, by a God who loves us and who died for us while we were his enemies. We were saved at that moment. We were saved the moment that God decided, before he founded this world, to offer himself in our place should we disobey. We were saved right then. But it's our faith that puts us in harmony with that saving grace of God. We have to be obedient to God. When we're obedient to God, everything's open up to us. The tribulations of this world are going to be there. They're going to be there. This world is a chaotic. Ever since Satan and sin came into our world, we've had death, hate, murder. I can't even name all the crimes that are happening in our world today. You can't name them all. That's the world that we live in. And we live in a world that is full of tribulation. There is never a moment when there's not tribulation in this world. Did you know that? And it doesn't care whether you're a follower of God or a sinner. It doesn't matter. Tribulation is going to dominate your life